First Rishi, then Sajid, followed by 50 resignations, and then finally the Conservative leader, Boris, good old BOJO, has resigned as Prime Minister of the UK. How exactly is that going to impact the property investment market? Ultimately, let's get it out of the way. Success is driven by solid foundations, and nothing ruins the progress of a country than the dissemination of a party. And it's like building a skyscraper where there are no foundations at all. Now, coming out of the last couple of years with originally Brexit, law changes, group changes, the resignation of loads of party members, COVID, and now the Russia-Ukraine crisis, what we need more than ever is solid leadership. So you'd think everything would deteriorate, but the country hasn't exactly reacted that way. The first thing to look at is currency exchanges, and it's one of the first indicators of the prediction. So what happens is, the first thing is gambling. I know that is a really weird thing to think about, but if you ever want to get a fairly accurate prediction of where a country is going, look at the odds on gambling. They hardly ever get it wrong. They hardly ever get it wrong. And so when you're thinking about the gamble, they predicted that if this would happen, the pound would actually rise. And what's happened? The pound has actually risen. Not by a lot against the dollar, but it does have an impact. It shows that the country has, as a whole, has a lot more confidence in the development of the country compared to with BOJO leading from the front. It kind of doesn't matter though, because whilst that's great for the UK, the independence, us having more confidence, it doesn't mean the world as a whole has more confidence. And in fact, if you look at the whole G7 or the rest of the major leading countries in the world, our inflation is one of the worst and our growth is also one of the worst. And so whilst this actually creates a really friendly environment for investing, and I'll get to that in a moment, if the rest of the world doesn't believe in the UK economy and the longevity behind it, then people aren't willing to invest. Linking back to the friendly nature that's created, if the pound does drop in value against the dollar, which it likely will from this and has already taken place, what that means is people outside of the UK, so foreign investors, are buying at a discount. How does this work? If I can put a pound in and get $2 out, and then the currency changes, and so now all I can get with a pound is $1.50, that is not good for me if I'm flying over for an American holiday. On the other side, if somebody from America comes to the UK and they want £1,000 and they originally had to put $2,000 in, but now they only need to put $1,500 in, that is really good because it's effectively, in real terms, cheaper for them to come over and spend in the UK. And that's exactly how it works for investing. And so what happened last time with Brexit was everyone was nervous about the property market. Foreign buyers, especially those from America and Hong Kong, were plowing money into the UK market. And that's exactly what I would expect, with a twist. And I'll link back to that in a moment. First of all, there are other areas of the property market that I believe will stall or in fact completely eradicate itself until further years down the line, and that's through distraction. The first of all is the green bills that have been going on. We've had a huge focus on the country for energy and bringing EPCs up to a C and all of that sort of thing. My personal opinion is that that will be put on pause for now. I'm not just talking about EPC, I mean everything, which long term is a real shame. I think that's a massive detriment to the country that is going to go on pause. Just my opinion on that, by the way. But for a lot of investors that were thinking about how they're going to get their Victorian property up to a C that's going to cost 20, 30 grand, it might be good for them. But I do think because of the distraction and everything that's going to have to go into the thought of leadership, it will end up having less focus on other policies that maybe aren't directly impacting the UK economy in a direct fashion. The next thing, with new housing leadership coming in, the new leader looking at the housing associations, this could have a dramatic massive impact into the supply of affordable housing. And affordable housing meaning something different on a week-by-week basis, it would seem. So what's currently getting introduced and looked at is that housing associations will have a right to purchase their property that they're in at a significant discount. The irony of this, of course, is that the housing that they're already in is deemed affordable housing, and then when they end up buying that, whether it's a good plan or not, the irony is what it then takes is the supply of affordable housing away and then puts pressure on the entire market to provide affordable housing. And so short term looks amazing, gets a lot of votes. Sure, that's the plan, but ultimately the long-term plan is self-destructive. It ends up taking away affordable housing, increasing the average prices overall, especially sub 200,000 houses, and then causes an absolute shitstorm for the next generation. But I guess, hey, maybe that's not their problem. The next big thing is the focus on levelling up. Levelling up has been a really big policy of Boris Johnson since he come into power and took through the Brexit plans. And ultimately, his entire tenure really has been about following through on past leadership. And it's not had a lot to do, you know, when David Cameron resigned, Theresa May then went in and then resigned, and then he's come into play and now resigned. It's not looking good for the Conservative Party, I have to say. But what he's largely done is focus on the delivery of their promises, which, to be fair to the guy, that is something he definitely has done largely, in my opinion. But something he looked at is this levelling up policy, where it's trying to decentralise all of the involvement in London, reinvest a lot of infrastructure in the north, essentially, and other connected towns, without taking away from London. The problem is that actually it's gone too far the other way. Now, I'm in one of those northern cities and benefiting from that, so nice one, BOJO, but not so good for the southern Londoners, where most of my family are. Sorry, famo. So the impact of that means that the economy doesn't exactly start to crumble because it is facilitated by these foreign investors. But actually, because of all of the infrastructure investments that have been put in, like Crossrail and everything else, it's likely that new party leadership, whether that is Conservative or Labour, will continue to invest in that, because especially from a Labour point of view, that it's about impacting people that are at the lower social grade in the UK and helping them get access to finance. So very likely that there's going to be more of a push on that. Now, what does that mean? It doesn't mean that London is going to crumble. You're always going to have sustainability and safety and security in London. But what I do think is that we're going to see a massive boost in the northern powerhouses. So Leeds investments, Manchester, Liverpool, Newcastle, and around the Nottingham and maybe even Birmingham areas, I would see a huge increase in that. And that's logical with all of the money getting pumped in and the infrastructure. But the key thing is, and I'm closing the loop from earlier in the video, foreign investment. So what's happened over the last couple of years is London has become less of a hotspot for foreign investment. And this has been led by Manchester, which is now starting to not decline in a rapid sense, but certainly stabilise. And then you're seeing other areas such as Leeds and surrounding areas and Liverpool and surrounding areas getting all of that foreign, Chinese, Hong Kong and American money getting pumped in. What I believe will happen is that we're going to see a bias around the house price average. What I mean by this is in areas that are over the average, which is 290,000, I think you are going to see some sort of pressures and recalibration around that. Not major, by the way. And I think a lot of that is going to go into sub 290,000 and especially sub £200,000 properties. So for those people that are essentially north of Birmingham, I think we've got some really good news. That doesn't mean there's not going to be some rocky roads in the middle, but I do think that the investment above Birmingham is likely to see a massive influx, as we've already sort of seen over the last 3 to 5 years anyway. And I think we're going to see more stabilisation, if you like, or even stagnation in London and southeast regions. But hey, that is just my opinion and very quick analysis, considering at the time of filming, it's the same week that Boris actually put in his resignation, and they're just my first thoughts. If I get any more, I'll definitely do a video around it. What I'd be really interested in is, first of all, based on my opinion, opinion? Does that benefit you or hinder you? And I guess that really comes about the north-south divide. And also, what's your opinion? That is not fact, anything I shared. It's just one person's opinion. And guess what? I'm interested in yours. Let me know what it is in the comments. And if you're new to the channel, then make sure to hit the subscribe to learn more about beginner property investment tips. Hit the like button and of course, watch this video.